The coins didn't just fall, they echoed. They hit the cold diner floor one by one, sharp metallic clinks that sliced through the chatter of customers and the hum of coffee machines like a quiet kind of thunder. Every head turned. Every fork paused mid-air. And in the center of it all stood an old man with trembling hands, his worn fingers still curled as if trying to hold on to dignity that had just slipped through them. He didn't bend down right away. Maybe it was the stiffness in his joints, or maybe it was something heavier, something invisible, that kept him standing there for a second too long, eyes fixed on the scattered coins like they were pieces of his life laid bare for strangers to judge. If you believe in kindness, second chances, and the quiet power of doing what's right when no one expects it, take a moment right now to like this video, comment your thoughts, share it with someone who needs to hear this, and subscribe to the channel American Folktales. Because stories like this aren't just stories, they're reminders of who we can be. The diner sat just off a dusty highway, the kind of place people pass through without remembering. Neon lights flickered in the window even during the day, and the smell of grease and strong coffee clung to everything like a second skin. It wasn't a place for dreams. It was a place for people who needed something quick, cheap, and forgettable. And yet, for the old man, it wasn't forgettable at all. He had walked nearly 3 miles to get there that morning, his steps slow but determined. His shoes were worn thin at the soles, his coat faded and fraying at the edges, but he carried himself with a quiet, stubborn dignity that didn't match his circumstances. His back was slightly hunched, but not broken. Not yet. Pinned carefully to the inside of his coat, hidden from most eyes, were medals he rarely showed anymore. They were reminders of a time when people had looked at him differently. When his name had been spoken with respect, when his sacrifices had meant something more than just survival. Back then, he had been strong. Young. Certain. Now, he was just another old man counting coins. He had chosen the corner table when he came in, a habit born from years of learning how to take up as little space as possible. He ordered the cheapest thing on the menu, a simple breakfast, and when it came time to pay, he reached into his pocket and pulled out everything he had. Coins. Carefully saved. Counted more than once before he walked in. But his hands had betrayed him. They shook, just enough to spill everything. The manager had seen it happen. A tall man with a pressed shirt and a permanent look of irritation, he had been watching from behind the counter. At first, he said nothing. Then came the sigh, loud enough for others to hear. Then the smirk. And finally, the words that followed, laced with mockery that stung more than any insult shouted in anger ever could. It wasn't just what he said. It was how easily he said it. As if the old man's struggle was entertainment. As if his life had been reduced to a moment of inconvenience. Laughter rippled from a few tables. Not loud, not cruel enough to be called outright bullying, but enough. Enough to make the air feel heavier, enough to make the old man's shoulders sink just a little more. Still, he didn't respond. He simply stared at the coins. And then, slowly, he began to bend. Each movement looked like it cost him something. His knees resisted. His back protested. But he lowered himself anyway, one hand reaching toward the floor, fingers brushing against cold metal in colder judgment. That was when she moved. The waitress had been standing near the kitchen, holding a tray she hadn't realized she'd stopped carrying properly. She had seen everything. Not just the coins falling, but the look in the old man's eyes. The way he had paused. The way the room had changed around him. Something in her chest tightened. She didn't think about it too long. She just acted. She set the tray down and walked toward him, her steps quick but quiet. She knelt beside him before anyone could say anything else, her hands moving to gather the coins, not hurried, not embarrassed, but steady, respectful. Careful. Like each coin mattered. Like he mattered. The room shifted again, though no one could quite explain how. Conversations faded. Eyes lingered a little longer. The same people who had laughed now watched in silence, unsure of what they were witnessing. The old man looked at her, surprised. Not because she helped. But because of how she helped. There was no pity in her eyes. No judgment. Just a calm, simple kindness that felt almost unfamiliar to him. She placed the coins gently back into his hand, closing his fingers around them as if returning something precious. Then she did something no one expected. She stood up, walked to the counter, and spoke quietly to the manager. No raised voice. No scene. Just a few words, calm but firm.